Ciao YouTube and welcome to a new review. Today I'll be reviewing the Vaxee Zygen NP01-G. I think it looks beautiful. Kinda looks like a mozzarella from behind, which, it's a positive for me. I'm Italian after all. And well, I won't bore you with details, but the Vaxee guys are former Zowie guys, so you can definitely see kind of some of the Zowie philosophy in this mouse. It's basically a mouse that is pick up and play. There's no software and the shape is a bit ergonomic. People say that it's kind of a mix between the S2 and the EC2. I kind of disagree with that. Mice aren't really, in-betweens of shapes. I mean, every shape feels different, so it's kind of a pointless comparison in my opinion. If anything, it doesn't really feel like an EC2 to me because of the shape on the right side. I will go a bit further in detail later. But it's a very cool mouse. I think like the main target for this are tactical FPS players, and it's already kind of been adopted by the CS Pro community. A lot of people have been using this mice from Zygen, and I mean, they're not sponsored, they're just using them because they like them, so that tells you something. If you're a Counter-Strike Valorant player, you already know that this will be a great mouse. It's basically, Zowie 2.0, or at least some people have been calling it that. So let's talk about the shape first, since I already mentioned it. The right side is ergonomic, but it doesn't have the problem that the EC2 has for me, which is the EC2 doesn't really allow you to properly claw if you have curled fingers. I'll show you my grip. You can see that I don't really have a problem curling my fingers and gripping it the same way that I grip all my mice, because first of all, it's a bit in the middle here. It gets a lot thinner than it does here. It gets wider at the bottom, so it's very easy for my ring finger to catch it here. With an EC2, since it kind of flares outwards a lot, an EC2 does, it's a lot harder to do that. So I like this. It's very easy for me to grip this, and not only that, but you might know that my claw grip on my, remember, 19.5 by 10 hands, 19.5 by 10, the claw grip that I use has the base of my palm touching the base of the mouse. And since it kind of gets, wider at the bottom here, it's very easy for me to have a lot of contact surface here, which gives me a lot of stability. Like this mouse, when I'm using it on the mousepad, is extremely stable, very controllable, very controllable. I instantly got good scores in, like, for example, 1 voltage target mode when I tried this mouse. It doesn't happen with all mice, and usually it's got something to do with how stable it is in my hand. Kind of like the XM1R. When a mouse has a shape where it gets wider at the bottom, it's very easy for me to control it because of the large surface area that's now touching the mouse. When I use a GPX, there's a lot less surface area. For example, here, it's not really touching much, but when I grip this, it's touching a lot, and that helps me stabilize it. So I like the shape, and it really fits my grip nicely. And let's talk about the coating now, since we're talking about gripping. This is the G version of the NP01. I've heard people say that the NP01 has problems when it comes to the coating. They don't love it. And this is the glossy version. You can probably see the coating is good. It's very grippy for me. I have zero complaint. I think it might even be grippier than the one in the GPX for my hands, I can grip this no problem. If anything, if I really try, I can, for example, do this on the GPX, like moving my thumb. It's a lot harder to do with this coating because it's glossy and, it's really grippy. I like it. Maybe if I got one of the normal NP01s, I would have problems with the coating, but the glossy coating in the NP01-G, it's just great for me. I like it. So the coating is good, the shape is good, and well, I mean, the sensor, I mentioned it many times, it's one of those top tier sensors. I used to religiously know everything about my sensors like 10 years ago, but nowadays, like, you're not gonna make them spin out. They're all decent, like, they're all flawless, really. Doesn't really matter that much. What I can tell you though is that I did manage to make this. I have to be honest, this happened on stream, and while I was streaming, I was trying a bit of different mouse pads, and when I tried the Raiden Mid, which is notoriously bad when it comes to spin outs, it makes basically 99% of my spin out. It did make the NP01-G spin out. But I mean, again, it's the Raiden Mid's problem, not really this. I tried it with all the other artisan pads, with a G640, a GSRSC, and GameSense radar. never had a problem with the sensor, so it was the rated mid indeed. So sensor is great, of course. Again, I told you they follow the Zowie philosophy, so basically most of your customization is here. On the bottom you've got 3 buttons. One of them is for DPI, of course, one of them is for refresh rate, and one of them, weirdly, is for debounce time, which changes, you know, the latency when you click the mouse 1, mouse 2, and the lower you go, the higher your chances of getting double clicks, so you gotta experiment a bit, and they use the whole button for that, so you can change and see if you can use the lowest or not. So the base, at the base you can see the feet. I don't know if they're pure PTFE. I like the size, you know, and I really like the glide. Like, I've been using them. I've been using the mouse with them. They didn't really have a break-in period or anything like that. I really like the way it glides. You can see here on an Artisan Heat and Soft. You probably cannot hear this, but it glides even better than the GPX in my opinion. It just goes, and they're very smooth. Again, you know, minimalism that you can see in the mouse is also there in the box. So I don't really know if these are pure PTFE, no additive, whatever. I just know they feel great, and that's what you should care about too, you know, because who cares what material the mouse feet are made of, as long as they work. And I'm telling you, they work, and they work very, very well. This mouse also, I think it's pretty balanced, because when I use it, I can definitely feel it's super controlled. It's really, in my opinion, a tactical FPS mouse. It's got great stability. It doesn't mean that it's bad for tracking or stuff like that. I've used it in Kovaak and Apex a lot, and it's just great for everything. I really like this mouse, you might have noticed. And I've always been like, most of my life I've used Zowie mice, so something like this really is good. I think it will push Zowie to innovate, so it's just great that this is happening. And yeah, I really like overall the shape and the features it has. So I'll make you hear the clicks now. This is mouse 1. Sounds pretty good to me. Mouse 2. Not bad. And what I really love is the scroll wheel. It sounds great to me. I know this is very subjective, but I love it. And I use it to jump in Valorant and Counter-Strike and to change guns, so I use the scroll wheel in games a lot. And I really like not only the sound, but you know, it's not just the sound that I love, but it's overall a very good scroll wheel in my opinion. It's meant to be used in a game. Obviously it's a gaming mouse, so of course it's not gonna be as good for productivity maybe. It's very clicky and noisy as I made you hear. But when you're using it to change guns, to jump, you can really feel every step. That's why it's so noisy. And feeling every step is very important when, you know, maybe you're trying to switch guns, so you need to be very precise. I really like the scroll wheel. And overall, I like the placement of the side buttons. They feel good. Everything has the right tension. Like, there's not really a problem. Like, if I had to choose, for example, I prefer the clicks on the NP01-G to the clicks on the GPX, because I feel like the clicks on the GPX are too easy to click. So sometimes when I flick, I will, since I rest my fingers on the mouse, I will flick and click the mouse to the right button, because it's just too light. It doesn't happen with the NP01-G. You know, they're a bit harder to click, and I think it's a good thing in this context. So let's talk about the weight. It's still light. Okay, it's a light mouse. It's of course not as light as a GPX or an ATS that I have here. Of course, there's a lot of really super light. This is not as light, but let's talk about real world. It's not really gonna change much. You get used to the higher, if you're coming from like an ATS or GPX, you will get used to the weight of the NP01-G in 0 time, because it's still not a heavy mouse, it's still light. What I can tell you is the cable isn't really the best. You can see here, I'm using the cable to push it, and I mean, it kind of stays stiff and straight, so that's telling you something. It's not the greatest cable ever. I would have preferred if this was wireless. I mean, every wired mouse gets better when it's wireless, but I guess we can wait for Vaxee to come out with a wireless implementation of this. Overall, the cable isn't that bad. If you use a bungee, they were also smart and made this part of the cable. I think it's called something like the stress reliever from the cable. I don't know, but they made it so that it's angled up, so the cable doesn't drag when you're using it on the mousepad, which probably helps with the scratchiness that I told you. I really don't feel any scratchiness. It's super smooth. So if you use a bungee, you're not really gonna be annoyed by the cable that much. There's definitely a lot of worse cables than this on the market, so it's not gonna be a problem. Overall, I can tell you my feelings for this mouse. I don't think it's gonna, you know, replace my GPX or the XM1R as a potential main, because overall, you know, I still prefer the shape of the XM1R for my claw, because the pinky here isn't in the perfect position, okay? The ring finger is very good, but the pinky, I would prefer the pinky to be a little more in line with ring finger, and that happens more with the XM1R. And so it's a bit harder to pick up, but I've been using this as part of my rotation for Counter-Strike and Valorant, especially when I need a very controlled feeling, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if it will ever become my main. There's always a chance. I keep switching mice all the time, so you know, you never know. I just know this is an extremely valid mouse, especially if you're into Zowie shapes and maybe you've been using an EC2, S2, you know, ZA shape for a long time and you want to try something new. I say definitely buy this mouse in that case. So overall, you will probably see me play with this on stream a bit more, because I'm really interested in like the control it gives me. I want to see if I can somehow use it to perform better in games. And overall, I think it's a pretty good product. You know, if you're an addict like me, I would say buy it and test it out, because these Vaxee Zygen mice are really, really interesting. Anyway, thank you for dropping by. There will be a lot more reviews coming soon, so make sure to subscribe if you like this, and see you soon. Bye bye.